Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to the Control Academy. It feels like just yesterday we were playing Slug Control, and we're back with Slug Control 2.0. Now normally I wouldn't dip back into a deck so soon, but there are two things that are worth considering right now. The first is that Kamigawa comes out in like 2 weeks, at least on Arena. And so this is kind of like a weird time to be brewing decks. And I'm really excited about what's going to be coming to a lot of the other decks I'm excited about once that set drops. And then second is that the format just got a huge shakeup with Alrund's Epiphany being banned. So in a post-banned and restricted world, I wanted to reconvisit Slug Control. When we think about the bans, there are a couple of things that happened, and I discussed this in my last video to a certain degree. I'll link that in a card up top here. So I won't go into it in extenuating detail, but losing Alrund's Epiphany from the format means that the threats that we have to be prepared for are different, and losing Divide by Zero from this deck also kind of changes what we have to think about and what we have to prioritize moving forward. So if we think back to the original Toxrill control deck, we were trying to cheat out the Giant Slug Horror, which is just an absolute engine for destroying creature decks once you can drop it. At the beginning of every end step, essentially, you go ahead and give your opponent a one-sided Knight of Souls Betrayal that scales for them. And then when things die, they turn into slugs for you. It's really great. And honestly, with how much more creature-centric the format has gotten since the ban announcement, this is an even better top-end threat than it was. Similarly, because Divide by Zero is out of the format, our other big beat stick, Hullbreaker Horror, is now even better than it was. So you'll notice that compared to the original list, I'm up another copy because it's really hard to justify not going really deep on Hullbreaker Horror, but I'm trying to keep the 7-drop slot not totally ridiculous in terms of the number of cards we have here. So we're trying to get into these two big drops. And one of the ways that we're making having a plan centered around a 7-drop a little more palatable is by going with Jacob Hauken as our sort of engine piece. And Jacob Hauken is a removal magnet because of how powerful it is, but the backside lets us cast things for free based on what we loot away with Jacob on his creature side, and then when it's on the enchantment side, every turn we exile a top card of our deck, and we get to cast one of those things for free. So it's kind of built-in card draw and just insane value when you get to cast things for free. And this is where Toxrill and Hullbreaker Horror get really nuts, because if you can cast them for free off of Hauken's Insight, then that's really hard to not be pleased by. On the other side of this, it means that we've been limited by what kind of cards we can play in here, because anything like the counter spell like Saw It Coming or Wash Away, if it gets put underneath Hauken's Insight, you can technically still cast it on your turn, but it becomes really kind of a bad draw. It turns that lose the momentum from Hauken's Insight. You functionally lose the counter spell on defense, and so we have to be creative about what we work in here. That's why we play Thirst for Discovery over Memory Deluge. It's why we've got things like Malevolent Hermit and Overcharged Amalgam instead of sort of traditional counter spells. And honestly, these work reasonably well. Getting extra butts on the board is relevant. Thirst for Discovery is definitely not as good as Memory Deluge, but it is a solid card that I'm not sad to have in the deck. And so we lost a lot of things with Divide by Zero, because Divide by Zero was great to have both in hand and underneath the Hauken's Insight, because it always did something. Because even if it just bounced something back, it was tempo, it went to our sideboard and got the learn cards. And I should note that I technically haven't taken the cards out of the sideboard, but it's irrelevant. Don't craft them, at least not for this deck, because there's no way to actually learn for them. I just haven't deleted the sideboard. So we want to think about things that give us access to more cards, because now we can't environmental sciences to guarantee our land drops. We won't be able to teach Exile Archaic, and we want to be able to access our game winners pretty easily, because we can't easily get to Mascot Exhibition anymore. So we are leaning on our creatures more than we were in the previous version. So we want more card draw. We also want more card selection. Because of how creature-centric the format has become, we need to put a priority on removal and tempo options, so that we can actually survive a game against Mono White and Mono Green, which are still contenders in the format. They did lose Faceless Haven, but it wasn't something that completely neutered them. And the sort of slowing down of the format has allowed the more explosive variants of those decks to be more relevant, and also the sort of black-based control decks, Orzhov and Mardu, and actually Abzan, which I'm going to do a video on later this week, have been rising up now that their sort of natural predator is gone. A lot of my predictions from that Mardu control video have come true pretty much to a T since the ban. So go back, watch that video. It's my most recent video before this one, and it's on the nose as to like what the format has become. Anyway, so this is all a way of saying we need to do a lot of these things mainboard. We want to do them as modally as possible and in a way that minimizes the potential downside of our engine here. So the first thing I did is I went all in on Fading Hope against the Mono White and Mono Green decks. You can set them back pretty well with Fading Hope. Mono Green especially really likes to rely on tokens from the Troll and Renin 7. It's just straight up value against those, and we get to scry a lot of these cases. So we can use this to set up our next draw, and it's not quite card draw, but at 1 mana, this card is good. It was already in the deck as a one-of previously, but its value has increased substantially enough that I've gone in on the additional copies here. The 2-drop slot hasn't changed. In the 3-drop slot, again, we lost Divide by Zero, and there's not a clear-cut replacement for that. So our option was to go hard counter spells and cut Jacob Hauken the Inspector. You can see that I haven't done that here. Instead, what I've done, in addition to the Fading Hopes, is go on to You Find the Villain's Lair. And this is like one of the things that happens when you're relying on a very specific engine piece that kind of contorts your deck building. You have to go with these decidedly subpar counterspells that are actually, made a little bit better in the context of this deck. And I've been happier with this card than I expected. So it is just a straight up, counterspell in hand. So it's a 3-mana counter. It's on par, at least in terms of rate, with Wash Away, but it doesn't have the 1 mana mode, obviously. But the important thing here is it has a second mode that we can use with a little bit less sort of problems under Hauken's Insight, which allows us to draw 2, discard 2. And 3 mana for that effect, even at instant speed, is kind of just okay if it's casting it from hand. It's a lot more palatable if it's for free. And so realistically, I'm looking at foiling their scheme when it's in hand and learning their secrets when it's underneath Hauken's Insight. But the fact of the matter, again, is that this sort of plays in a very similar space to Thirst for Discovery. And so it sort of fills out that card selection gap that we have there. I do hope that whether it's through Kamigawa or some edits to the deck that I can do later. I've been thinking of splashing green for Diagraph Revival, the one that has a flashback that lets you put a creature from the graveyard onto the battlefield. Being able to reuse things from the graveyard would be really powerful. This deck doesn't do that particularly well, so we just need to be able to discard in a very thoughtful way. We're still running Path of Peril. I still think it's my favorite Wrath in the format, and in this deck, it's still really good. Given how much sacrificing we can do in the late game, I have been really tempted to throw in a Meat Hook Massacre or two, and I don't think that you're wrong to do so if you want to in this format. However, compared to the black decks that use that, there's not nearly as much of this, and so it's kind of a win more situation, although it does scale nicely. So use your best judgment. I haven't gone that way here, and I haven't regretted it yet, but play around with it. You may have different results depending on what you're paired against. So this sort of 4 of Wrath slot you can play around with and see what works best, either in your local meta if you're playing in paper, or with whatever seems to be working on ladder for you. Otherwise, the last major change is that I've gone down to just 2 copies of Field of Ruin. Now that we don't have to worry about Faceless Haven, we don't really need to stack 4 of these, and honestly the 2 is kind of, a little bit gratuitous as it is, but I've gone ahead and added in 2 Hagra Maulings. Again, more removal, fight the hit creature decks. This one sort of splits the difference of being both land and removal spell, and it's just straight up gas if it happens to be underneath Jacob Hauken, because you can play either side, from the Hauken's Insight. And so I've liked having access to this. I relatively rarely cast the removal spell version from hand, but the fact that it's there as an option is really nice. Otherwise, the rest of the mana base hasn't changed. We're still splashing just enough white to be able to cleave Path of Peril, but the deck worked really well before. It seems to be working really well for me now, and I'm really excited to see Toxrill continue to be as dominant as I've seen him be so far. So anyway, that is the deck tech from here. Again, please do supplement this conversation with the deck tech from the original video, but hopefully this gives some context about the deck building decisions that I made post-ban and restricted announcement. I am recording this right after the ladder reset, so I'm in a bit of a weird spot in terms of where I am in terms of matchups, so do bear with me if there are some really bizarre matchups in this video, but I do enjoy seeing a more diverse meta game, which you do get down in the gold bracket, and so we'll see what we get, and hopefully have a lot of fun in the process, because this deck is one that I legitimately enjoy. So anyway, I'll see you in the arena, and remember, if you like the video, please consider subscribing, throw this one a like, and it means a lot to me, because just getting going here, and hopefully providing you some value. Thanks. All right, first up, Dado. Good luck, sir. All right, our opening hand is very 7-drop heavy. That's questionable. Wish I had some real removal, but we've got a counterspelly creature and a way to draw cards, so that's not so bad. I think, especially with the card draw, this is probably better than going to 6, so I'll try it. 4th land is not awful given the circumstances, but we'll see. All right. Black-green with Emergent Sequence, which I'm not quite sure what to make of, but we'll see. I'll drop a Field of Ruin here. Normally I go with a Swamp, but I kind of want to hold it in hand for one of these Thirsts. This is interesting. It's a blue-green plains. Double Emergent Sequence. I really would like a Path to Peril as soon as possible. Given there, I don't know whether or not it's right to just block here, but I think that this Malevolent Hermit has more value potentially, so I'm just gonna take the 2. Hey, it's a Path to Peril. Yeah, let's go ahead and attack, and I will happily let them do this. I mean, they were going to get the treasure token off of the Shambling Guest anyway, so not too worried about that. But there is nothing that says non-land on this, so bye-bye plains, bye-bye forest. Did just occur to me that they are playing a plains, so I have to pay attention to whether this is splashing the white for the same reasons that we do, or if it's actually an Abzan deck proper. Path to the Festival. Interesting. All right. Ramping. Cool. Now, the real question is, do I risk skipping my land drop? And I think the answer is that since I'd be just bluffing anyway, I'm going to cast this now and draw a land and be able to discard this swamp. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with what we drew there. I'm gonna so here's where it's tough always, is like, if I end up playing this as the land, it's better to play it now. But if I need it as a removal spell, I wish I do this. I'm gonna play the Brightclimb Pathway and just leave this up as a potential removal spell. But if I need to use it as a land drop next turn, then so be it. Man, little worried about what they're ramping to, I suppose. Okay. All right, so yeah, there we go. It's a land drop. Here's a question: is do I play Malevolent Hermit and leave up it as counter magic? Do I do it and Jacob Hauken? Not really sure that there's an amazing answer here regardless, so I'm going to play both. Yeah, let's go with both. In reality, the right answer is probably, given that they've spent all this time just grabbing lands, probably just to keep grabbing or leave up a removal spell, but looks like I wasn't punished too badly for that yet. I wonder if they're going for Cultivator Colossus. Like, that would be pretty good. Here, I think I'm going to do the same trick I did last time. And I'm actually going to tap the Brightclimb Pathway, Brood Pit, and a Shipwreck Marsh. I want to potentially leave up this Field of Ruin because I do have a creature land. So let's get thirsty. We should draw another land, so grab a swamp. Or discard a swamp, rather. I'm going to play this on blue. Yeah, I think that was correct. In this case, no need to give them the value, so I'll go ahead and pass. We're getting close to being able to drop one of our 7 drops, so can't complain about that too much. Unfortunately, they've ramped enough that can't meaningfully stop this path to the festival, but you know, that's fine. Emergent Sequence. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. They can pay for the Hermit tax anyway, but I can just bounce the land back to their hand. It's not a big deal. See what they want to do. If they want to poke, then that's fine. Yeah, let's just Fading Hope. Scry 1. I have no idea what they're doing, so finding the villain's lair seems decent. Fine. Go ahead and draw it. And put Path of Peril, rather, underneath there. And then we're in an interesting spot. They only have one unknown, and if it's a removal spell, then it's going to be rough. But what's nice is that if I do this, and they let me resolve it, we get a free Toxrill. Hooray for free Toxrill. Well, I guess it's not really free, but free enough. The correct answer was actually probably Hullbreaker Horror, now that I'm thinking about it, since we have the Consider in hand. But I want that Slimy Boy. Because they're just, yeah, they're going to kill this Malevolent Hermit. But we'll see what they got. They could have enchantment removal like that. Okay, well, let's see what they choose to get rid of, because if they I think they're interesting. Okay. I would have gotten rid of the Hauken's Insight personally, but I am not going to question their judgment. I don't know what their one unknown is, and it could be real good. Let's see. I like the idea of keeping the Consider for a Hullbreaker Horror. Overcharge Amalgam ain't bad. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So let's go ahead and poke the Kaya. No idea what they're trying to do here.
You're getting in my way.
We'll go ahead and play the Overcharged Amalgam and don't submit. And then we'll sit back here. We've got a counterspell. We've got Hullbreaker Horror with Consider. That's not true. Never mind. I miscounted my lands. We only have 7 lands, so we don't actually have the full fat Hullbreaker Horror, but it's fine. We still got Finding the Villain's Lair. I'm not quite as afraid of these emergent sequences as I probably should be, if I'm being honest. But we'll see. Kill that. I don't actually have anything in my graveyard I'm particularly worried about, but don't feel like I need to take a hit for no reason. And then here, Thirst for Discovery. I scoop it up. I do think I was going to win that game, but I think they scooped a little early. Good game. All right, Nico Sogi, good luck. All right, this is an ambitious hand. I don't think I can keep this on the, at least not on the draw. The Fading Hope is not guaranteed to do anywhere near enough, and if they remove the Jacob Hauken, I'm literally doing nothing until I either top deck gas or hit 7 mana. So, go for 6. I wouldn't say that this is an incredible 6, but it is keepable. I'll keep and want to have access to double blue. Yeah, let's do that. Red, green, alright. Hey, we got a Jakey anyway, so there we go. At this point, with the way it's in hand, I will Fading Hope pretty much the first thing they let me, but let's hope for the best and throw down Jakey for now. Wedding announcement, that's pretty decent. That card has been very much overperforming for me in the few aggro decks that I've been playing recently. Don't underestimate this one. So they want the Circle of Confinement. Let's see. So I am going to draw a card. Probably should have drawn in response in case I drew a counter spell, but it's too late now. Gonna exile, consider. Then I'll Fading Hope. Put the extra Jakey to the bottom. If I'd known that was on top, I would have just let them have it. But oh well. Take the one, save the Fading Hope. Yeah. The value. Think about the value. Leaving up Overcharge Amalgam here actually doesn't seem bad, but I'm going to take my chances trying to get Jacob online. It can block, it can draw cards. How much removal can they really run, right? Probably regret blocking one of these, but we'll see. Nice thing about them having tokens is I can snag them with Fading Hope pretty easily. So what is there? Suspend card. That's interesting. Let's go ahead and do that. And there we go. That's why that card's pretty decent. Just pass. They're going to attack, and I'm just going to ambush Viper him. Thirst for Discovery is good, but I don't particularly feel like risking having to dump something really good in the yard, especially when getting butts on the board is so valuable. They are running Doomscar in their aggro deck. That is quite bold. To exile Thirst or Amalgam. Exile the Amalgam. Submit one. Losing all these cards to that. And then pick Jakey back up again. Do I want to keep the Path of Peril? I haven't seen that many creatures from them, but I have to imagine that they're coming. Yeah, let's keep it. And let's do it again. Immolation. Alright, well, Jake's finally gonna die. Fine. If you must. I have literally never seen this card in Constructed. That's interesting. And is that another Doomscar? Because I did not expect to see a Naya control deck today. That's for sure. Let's see what we draw. No basic. But they're scooping it up anyway. Alright. I don't think I deserve that particular win, but I'll take it anyway. GG. Alright, Williamson. Good luck. I expect those reports on my desk first thing in the morning. Yeah, this is okay. We've got Wrath. We've got some ways to control the board. We've got Counterspell with a Bud attached. Yeah, you know, they can't complain about it. The important thing is we can do things in the first couple turns, and that always is pretty important, especially since this looks like it's going to be mono green, and so actually with Dragon's Guard Elite, interesting. So especially having access to these wraths is going to be good. Given that I don't know what this is going to be doing, I'm going to go ahead and just send it back to hand, make him cast it again, put the Amalgam to the bottom. I'd like to get an Infernal Grasp sooner than later. We'll see. The other thing that this does is it makes dropping Jacob here feel a little bit better, because if they just take their turn off to play the Dragon's Guard Elite again, then, you know, only so much bad can happen. Although it does make the Path of Peril a little bit worse, but it looks like they're going to go ahead and make it better for me. Anyway. Okay, so Shipwreck Marsh. Question is, how big of a hit am I willing to take from this Dragon's Guard Elite? And I think I'm willing to take that hit in order to cast Thirst for Discovery instead of Path for Peril. We'll see if I live to regret that. But my hand's okay, but it's not doing great. And see, this is one of the things that's going to make this Path of Peril so much nicer. I've not seen Dragon's Guard Elite in mono green lists, so I'm watching this very intently. Good. I'm going to drop the Hermit and the Consider. I like this a lot. We've got the white source for when that matters for now. Drop the Hall. And just let's slurp up these Dragon's Guard Elites. We've got a backup Wrath in case they've got something nastier in hand. We clearly have something, but I suspect it was probably a Snakeskin Veil, which is not going to save him from that. See, and there's a good thing that might want a Wrath. I don't know. Can't cleave this turn, but get there. This is another card that I haven't seen in a lot of decks, but it is very scary, so I understand why they did it. I'll start off with this. I want to see if I can get an Infernal Grasp. I got an Infernal Grasp. Hey, I should start betting more often. Let's go ahead and pass. If they play something scarier that I want to counter with the Amalgam, then I will do that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not going to take 6 here. It's just too much. Actually, the fact that I saw them hesitate with the Dragon's Guard Elite is, yeah, okay, I probably should have thought about that. It's okay. This is good. I'm going to put this as I was baiting things out of their hand. Oh, okay, but they're going to go ahead and Baleful Recovery. Because they think they're being clever. But I'm going to go ahead and play the one of the lower value Path of Perils I've ever played. Let's hope that those 2 unknowns in their hand just aren't very good. Hey, it's going in my favor. This is good. This is good. I like this. We've got Hullbreaker Horror. Yeah, sure. Want to know what that last card is? Show me. Show me a moose. I don't think it's something that can punish me for dropping a Hullbreaker Horror here. I'm gonna hope desperately that I'm not wrong about that. But this should be pretty close to good game. Yep, there it is. That was going to be real hard for them to overcome, especially with me having ways to bounce a lot of their stuff. All right, GG. Alright, Isaac, good luck. This hand has my two boys ready to go. They're on the play. I got removal and card draw. I shouldn't, but I'm gonna keep it. This is an aggressive keep, and it is just late enough at night that I'm just YOLOing at this point. This is not a particularly good hand versus mono white, but gotta do what you gotta do. And there's Jakey. Alright. Let's drop this on black. I'm gonna get Jacob Hauken going. Probably end up taking some damage from the Usher. Oh well. What do you got? What do you got? Yeah, fine. So I make a 1/1? Yeah, that's okay. Alright, here. Let's see. I think I play this on black for the time being. Could end up being wrong, but leave up Jacob to pretend block. Show me the Brutal Cathar. Just show me. No, okay. Past blockers. I'll take 2 from this Usher. This is probably something better to Infernal Grasp, but we'll see. They're just boasting. So boastful. Oof. How egotistical could they be? So what I'm trying to do here essentially is I need to set up more removal spells with Jacob. I'm just thinking as a merfolk looter at this point. I kept a hand, like I said, that's just YOLO-tastic. And to be fair, if I can resolve a Toxrill, is just game, but that seems pretty optimistic. At this point, what I can probably hope for most likely is Path of Peril and just accept that Jake's dead. Do I want to do that? There's not a lot of great options here. I'm going to keep the Hagra Mauling since I can cast it and put the Field of Ruin underneath Jacob. And then my turn. It's an argument I should have used the Infernal Grasp there on the Usher, but we'll see. Pass and turn. Blade Historian is 100% going to die. Yeah. Come at me, bro. Yeah, I mean, eventually I need to kill these things, but for now, let me see if I can draw something useful for now. I don't think that counts just yet. Do I keep the land or do I keep the removal spell? I think given where my hand is, I kind of put the Shipwreck Marsh back. Want to hold on to a white source in case I need to do a big Path to Peril later. There's Path to Peril. Let's draw with Jake. Fading Hope is also good, but Hagra Mauling. Alright, Jake. Sorry, buddy, but unfortunately you gotta take one for the team. At this point, this is... they have one kind of card. Just one. I'll go ahead and main phase Thirst, see if I can hit a land drop. I can. Do I decline and discard? Come on, there we go. 2 Fading Hopes. Almost objectively the wrong play there, but I don't want to discard one of the big boys, even though I probably should. And this Path of Peril is almost certainly going to give me some value in this next turn. If I can draw an untapped land, then something tells me it's going to be lights out. Come on. Dump that hand. Show me your moves. Ah, shucks. Alright, so I'm going to 1, 2, and 3. Thirst. There we go. Discard an island. Then I'll play a swamp. Path of Peril again. It would have been nice to Toxrill on, but I obviously cannot afford that. Chapel Shieldgeist. That is just gives everything ward, which is not going to help against Toxrill. Hey, the slimy boys are back in town. You better not have Valor Stance. Yes. All right. Cool. If I can get both Hullbreaker Hoarder and Toxrill out on the field at the same time, I'm going to be tickled pink. Attack. In Baleful Mastery, I don't have enough mana to do both in a go, but see what's going on there. Now what's annoying is because of the text on the Chapel Shieldgeist, it got exiled, so I didn't get my slug, but oh well. Skyclave Apparition is not going to be particularly helpful here. That is what we like to call a speed bump. Let's go ahead and just see what happens. They should probably scoop here. There we go. Good game. Oh, ended on the high note. All right, folks. Welcome back. So, Toxrill 2.0. Slug Control, the second sluggening. As you can probably tell from the games, the deck still works really well. And what's interesting is I think that the loss of Divide by Zero makes this stack of cards less good than the original version of the deck. But because of the way that the meta has shaped up, it's actually on the whole gotten positioned better. So the deck got weaker, but its position in the meta game got stronger. And so it all shakes out that between the games I played on camera and ones I played off camera, I played about 20 games with this configuration and lost 3. 2 of those were just completely preventable. One of them I was just too focused on narrating what I was doing and clicked through countering a Planeswalker with Malevolent Hermit, and it just lost the game because of the punt there. Another one was it's very late at night here, and I just missed the sequencing on Hauken's Insight. And so while straight up lost those games and it's my fault, they were all preventable losses, so I don't think it's the deck's fault. It's very much a problem that sits between the keyboard and the chair in this case. Hagra Mauling was probably the weakest of the new additions. You find the Villain's Lair, it was fine. It's never going to be Divide by Zero. That's just something I'm gonna have to live with. But having a counter spell that becomes a card draw spell under Hauken's Insight, it was fine. I definitely countered some spells with it, and it was something that I wasn't so worried to tuck underneath Jacob. And then the Fading Hopes overperformed here. I mean, Fading Hope has been good for a long time, so it's really not that surprising. But in this case, just being able to get the tempo back in our favor, do a bunch of scries, since so much of the format relies on low-cost creatures. That I'm glad to have had a good excuse to go up on these. Otherwise, the deck, again, was largely unchanged there. Hullbreaker Horror is still stupid good, but the deck still leans on Toxrill because the number of just blowout games you get there is it's really impressive. I will say that the biggest blowout I got, the game that I think was just, it was never going to win it, had no business winning in it. The opponent had... they had Valorous Stance in white. So if you are playing a white aggressive deck, having seen them use it against me, I think it's worth packing that card as a counter to all sorts of decks. But certainly Toxrill gets answered pretty cleanly by it. And when someone gets too greedy with Hullbreaker Horror, which is going to be the much more common card, you can take advantage of that situation. But yeah, this is Slug Control. It was good a few weeks ago. It's gotten even better post bans. And I think we managed to reconfigure the deck without Divide by Zero, without losing a ton of steam. And it plays a little bit more like a traditional control deck now. So I am pretty happy with it. As usual, if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video itself. I'm going to try to make a few more videos this week about the different control decks that are starting to emerge post bans. Honestly, it's just really so apparent how much Alrund's Epiphany was just warping the format, even just with the opponents you saw me play against today. So I'm really excited to brew in this format. And so we get a couple weeks to play around, and then Kamigawa's out, and I've got a ton of really great deck ideas already stewing up in the brain just based on the spoilers. So anyway, I'm your host, Marshall. It's been a real blast playing games with you tonight, and I'll see you in the next one.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one.